It was noontime today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace.
Well, all right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk artillery, we're going to talk missiles, we're going to talk future weapons. Kind of all around. Who's got the biggest guns? Who can really put the most hurt on somebody? And now artillery goes way back. I think we had catapults, you said around 400?
Around 300 BC
Oh,
was
beast.
the first
Okay.
catapults, right?
All right, so we're going way back. Around the 13th century, the Chinese had some kind of rocket tubes. So that was the first like propelled, I think, really stuff around the
Right.
1300, rockets. And then they kind of fell out of favor for a little bit. Da Vinci developed some kind of 12 or 13 barrel, like almost like a Gatling cannon. Like it didn't have the whole cool Gatling thing going on.
Right. Didn't turn around and stuff, but
a
yeah.
13 barrel cannon is still pretty impressive, And then, it's just been impressive and getting better and better. Revolutionary War, we had some stuff. What'd you have there?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the Siege of Yorktown, which was the last major battle of the Revolutionary War. Basically, Lord Cornwallis was set up shop over in Yorktown, which is hypothetically it's a good position because he could easily get resupplied. It's right on the water. He had his back to the water and could fortify Yorktown. Yorktown was like a small fishing village then. It wasn't like a big city like it is now.
Naval weapons station. Okay.
Yeah. So so he was expecting supplies to be resupplied by the British Navy, but the French Navy was there and they fought a big battle and chased off the British. So he was basically stranded there with he had what was it about 10,000 troops, and they fortified the city, and then George Washington shows up. Right, he's got all the big guns and not just the cannons, but he's got Benjamin Lincoln. Henry Knox shows up with him. Alexander Hamilton's there. Frederick Wilhelm von Steuben, who, if you're an American, you know that some states have actual von Steuben Day.
Really?
Where kids get off of school. Yeah.
I didn't
Everybody
know
loves von Steuben.
Is
he was
true?
a Prussian.
That's the thing? Okay.
Yeah, in Illinois, the kids had school off. I don't know what other states do it, but.
So you were the only wackos out there. Okay.
Von Steuben Day. Thomas Nelson was there. Moses Hazen. Henry Dearborn. These are all. Now, if you look any of these guys up, they're all like famous founding fathers. These were all the serious dudes.
The big guns and artillery.
All right. And all on top of all that, Marquis de Lafayette. Now he was a French guy, and him and Washington were like best buds. They loved hanging out with each other, bullshitting, drinking together. And I looked up this guy, Marquis de Lafayette. Apparently he's got a long name, and they always shorten it. So his full name is Marie Joseph Paul Ives Roche Gilbert de Montier de Lafayette Marquis de Lafayette.
Okay.
So Marquis is like a noble title. It's above a count and below a duke. If you know anything about that, I don't. But if that's something you're into.
All right. And we just call him Jack for short.
That's right. So altogether, there's about 19,800 American troops, or U.S. and French troops, and 10,000 British troops. The British troops were fortified and set up in Yorktown, and they had a good position, but since they couldn't be resupplied, they were kind of fucked because they ended up having a siege. And basically, how it set up was the uh, the American forces basically dug trenches all around the outside of the city,
Okay.
and they set up their cannon, which had a longer range, had about 1 to 2,000 yard range for those cannons. They had field guns and siege guns.
All right.
They fired, dug trenches closer and closer, and then they could set up their mortars. Mortars were basically they had a high trajectory, and they would go over the earthworks and explode over the troops, sending down like shrapnel.
Raining hellfire.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. Then they got closer and they were able to set up howitzers. Now howitzers have about a 1,300 yard range at max. And they could be used as cannon, like a straight shot towards the enemy, but also, lob cannonball over top of the earthworks to rain down on the city. About this time, the British basically run out of food, and they're just getting the shit blown out of them. So they have to surrender. They don't have any choice. So basically, Lord Cornwallis, in like one of the classic bitch moves of history, says that he's sick. He can't surrender. He can't do it. So he sends his second in command out there. And second in command first goes to Lafayette to surrender his sword. And Lafayette's like, nah, dude, you got to surrender. You can't surrender to the French. You have to surrender to the Americans. So that was like humiliating. So he went to surrender to George Washington. And George Washington, at this point, George Washington basically has the biggest dick on the continent. And he's all in. He's like, nah,
that's how that works.
I don't take surrenders from second in commands. You have to surrender to my second in command.
Nice.
And surrender to somebody, to his second officer. So basically, that was the end of the American War. There are a couple other little battles, but this led directly to the to the end of the war. So basically, the British lost 244 pieces of artillery to the Americans then, and had to surrender 10,000 troops. And the troops all smashed their rifles so that the Americans couldn't get it, but they did get all artillery and all their cannons. And basically, they became prisoners. A lot of the time during these wars, they would just like take your weapons and let you go.
Be like, yeah, get out of here.
Yeah, they're like, nah, you gotta stay here until the war's over.
Nice. I had a nice Yorktown story, but now you took so long with that one, I'm not sure I can get there. But because I've actually been to the weapons station at Yorktown, and
right.
My ship was up there resupplying, and they were like, oh, well, it'd be great if you could drive the ship's van up to Yorktown and meet us there so the officers could have something to drive around and pick up chicks or whatever.
Right,
I don't know.
right.
I don't know what was going on. But so I go up there and so they have like, nuclear weapons and stuff. This is back in the day, and I'm sure they probably still do. I don't know. But they have like mines and stuff all over the ground. I mean, this is like a hardcore don't fuck with us kind of place. And I show up and there's a road and a little guardhouse. There's no gate and whatever. So I pull up to the guardhouse and it's got this mirrored glass and you can't see anything. It's just straight mirror in the thing. And I sit there, no shit. I sit there probably 10 minutes. Nobody comes. So I'm like, oh, fuck it. The guy's probably asleep, whatever. That's not my problem. So, well, it turns out maybe it is. But so I drive in and the guy comes out and like shoots his gun into the ground next to the van or whatever and is hollering and screaming. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? What's your problem? And he's like, hey, you didn't see me. I told you to wait. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, I put my finger up. You should have waited. I was on the phone. And I'm like, dude, it's got mirrored glass. I can't
Right.
see shit. Like, what do you? And he's like, well, fucking ridiculous. This is a secure facility. You can't, whatever. But you get the idea.
Yeah.
I just came away with what a fucking jackass.
All wound up.
Yeah,
Yeah, all
yeah.
wound up over nothing. Firing off
Nothing.
guns. Like, you have to
But-
fill out a whole report for that. You know what I mean?
Hey, I'm like, dude, what? I'm gonna steal the nukes? Come on. Anyway,
That's classic.
Anyway, so we moved from Revolutionary War.
Right.
Where
To
do we
July
go?
3rd, 1863.
All right.
So this is we're talking about Gettysburg, Pickett's charge. Union forces led by George Meade against Confederate forces led by Robert Lee. They had about the Union had about 10,000 soldiers in this particular part of the battle, and Robert E. Lee's forces were about 12,500 soldiers. So basically, what had happened was they attacked the left flank and realized that it was heavily fortified, and they attacked the right flank and realized that was heavily fortified. So they decided that the next morning they were going to attack the center. Meade kind of anticipated this and moved the guys in from the left and the right flank and fortified the center of the,
Really,
of the
wherever
field.
the bad guys moved, the guys just ran to the other side. Wait, we'll be right there.
Yeah. Well, they all did this at night, so nobody could really see what each other was doing.
All right.
And so they started off with it. Now, let's see, they had about 170 cannon. This is Robert E. Lee's forces.
All right.
And they start off with a massive artillery barrage. This is the biggest artillery barrage that's ever happened in the United States, probably ever. And they had a 2-mile long line of cannon and just started shooting at the center. And it went on for about a half hour, and then they started advancing. What they didn't realize with the cannons were overshooting the line. They weren't actually doing a lot of damage. So General Meade, though, with all the smoke, nobody could see what was happening. So what he had them do was on the Union side, slowly stop firing their cannons. You know what I mean? Over time, pacing it out like they were being destroyed. So 12,000 guys started advancing across the field. It's about 3/4 of a mile to the Union lines.
All right.
And they get about halfway and realize none of those cannon had been destroyed, and they just start getting fucked up. They were in a bad spot, just out in the open. They kept advancing and managed to get to the line, the front line of the Union soldiers, and were able to start pushing them back. But then the whole thing ended up falling apart. This was one of the biggest casualty battles of the Civil War. So about 6,555 guys were killed or captured on the Union side, on the Confederate side, excuse me, and about 1,500 guys on the Union side. And basically, this was the end of the war, and this was one of the biggest artillery battles in the Union in the Civil War, and the Civil War is often considered like the first modern war, meaning that this is the first time people were using cannon and artillery as on an open battlefield as like direct fire, aiming and hitting what you're aiming at. Before that, mostly those cannons were just fired in the general direction, and right. That this was a big change in artillery in world history.
Nice. Now I'm gonna jump way into the future because we could talk about shit. We could talk about. It's not really artillery and whatever, but we could talk
Franco-Prussian
about
War and
AK-47s changing the history of the future of war. Gatling guns, which were happening in the Civil War. We had the whole Gatling gun thing going on. Let's jump up a bit because, for the sake of time, the MLRS. Now the MLRS, that's that multi-launch rocket system thing. Now
Hmm.
this I have a picture of a Russian one, but this thing, if you watch video and because it's a podcast, I couldn't really pull off the whole video thing, without
Right.
it just being lame. Um, was is shoots just nonstop freaking hammers these rockets so fast, and you just destroy an enemy. I just
Hmm. Right.
think Iron Man type stuff in the beginning. Not
Right.
the big hellfire, that stuff there, but it's crazy. The MLRS is just an amazing piece of war, but I don't know. There's so much. I don't want to delve into that too much too either. The next thing that is a huge game changer is hypersonic missiles. Now, hypersonic missiles are really the future of war. I hate to say it. I mean, well, I don't know. I have some other stuff at the end that maybe is the future of war. I don't really know. But hypersonic missiles are, well, I would say the end of war, right? That's when you just
Hmm.
nuke the other
Right.
countries and you're like, fuck it, it's done.
Right. Now,
Um, yeah,
there's some. It's interesting right now because with what's happening in Ukraine, we're kind of getting to see all the best high tech stuff that everybody has to offer. You know what I
yeah,
mean? The
yeah.
French, the Poles, the Germans, the U.S. They're all sending their best weapons over there to like get them tested out against the
And
best
that's a
of
big thing. They're
the
trying to test
Russians.
it out, right?
Everybody got the best equipment. And they're all using it against each other, and we're getting to see how all this stuff works in real life. Now, these hypersonic weapons that were developed by the Russians, um, amazing stuff. You know what I mean? So fast, and they
Yeah,
change directions.
that,
Like it's
that's
almost.
right.
They said it was impossible to shoot it down, but the more modern Patriot missiles are actually taking some of them out, which is
Nice.
interesting because
It is.
nobody thought that was going to be possible.
Right. Now, hypersonic basically means it's going over Mach 5. So
Hmm.
you're talking significant. But
Yeah.
to be honest, a lot of them now are Mach 20, Mach 23.
Hmm.
They're
Right.
really, kicking ass. But to be considered a modern hypersonic missile, basically it changes direction while it's moving, like you were saying.
Hmm.
And you figure if something's moving at, whatever, Mach 23, I think that would be like something like 15,000 miles an hour, whatever. I think
Hmm.
it's like 700 and something is Mach 1, and then,
Right.
from there. But so you have something going that fast. If you make a 1 degree shift in your direction,
Hmm.
you're somewhere else, in no time.
Right.
And then, and they're back and forth. And that's kind of the beauty of them. There's basically two types. There's like cruise missiles, and then there's glide missiles. And that's actually what we see more of is the glide missiles. That are, going that Mach 20,
Right. And
Mach
they have
25.
like those glide missiles have like wings on them,
Yeah, yeah.
not
But
just
well,
like fins, but big fins.
I see a lot of them as like rectangle angle. I actually, that isn't the right picture, but
Hmm.
and where they it helps with the changing and the gliding. Like they have these little chutes and whatever. They're pretty impressive. But they definitely kicking some ass. So China has one that is called, all theirs seem to be the Dong Fang. So they're
Okay.
DF. We went like DF-27 and whatever. I think they just pull the numbers out of their ass, or that, or they just like have a bunch of bad ideas because we seem to jump at like 12 numbers at a time. We'll
All
go
right.
from like DS1 to DS13, whatever. So we're at DF-41,
All right.
and they call it the MERV. It basically, it's like a multi whatever, I don't know. But it has 10 nuclear warheads all in one. And they claim, now we have some like random pictures of it.
All
Um
right.
the bonus is I have the well, I think so the DF-41, there it is ends up, they're saying 12,000 kilometers an hour, or, oh, the range is 12,000 kilometers. And based on my experience in the military, the range is not always disclosed. We'll say that the capabilities.
Like the range might be longer
Right,
or
right.
shorter.
And I mean, it's a pretty impressive weapon. They're saying 23 Mach 23. It basically can go from Shanghai to New York. And they're saying with the 10 nuclear warheads, you would expect that you could just like annihilate something huge like New York City. Like just the whole thing. But they actually have a Lego version out of
Oh,
China that you can buy for
nice.
$111.
I didn't
And
think
you try
Lego
to get
made.
the
Is that like a
breakdown.
knockoff
Oh,
Lego? I
it's
didn't think Lego
Chinese.
made
Yeah,
more.
Chinese knockoff Lego.
Okay.
And you're in. But they're basically, considered the cutting edge. Now, the US military, we want to get on board. So 2024 budget, we actually proposed 11, and I don't know if this actually went through or not. They're working on $11 billion for the Pentagon so they can get 24 hypersonic missiles developed and built. Yeah, 11 billion
11
for
billion
24
dollars.
missiles. But will be the standard. And that's the thing, you're paying so much, for these. So yeah, you
Mhm.
can't shoot them down, but how cool would you be if you could just shoot like 50 of them? And how
Mhm.
cool if you could just send. That's the problem. We have these great missiles, right? We're going to shoot 24 nukes all over the world, or they could just send a guy with a backpack who can walk into our open borders and come up from Mexico and whatever,
Uh,
I mean, you go either way.
yeah. Well,
Billion
I mean, it's
dollars
fun. It's fun.
or a
Nuclear
million.
apocalypse. I'm all in.
Um, one of the cool things, so like you said, the Patriots are taking these things down. They're able to shoot down these different things, but things like the Gerald Ford has laser weapons that they're
Mhm.
actually trying to use to shoot these things down.
Yeah, I heard
Um,
a big scare about Chinese lasers
mm,
recently. How they developed some laser that doesn't heat up and it can just be fired nonstop. And there's a lot of scaremongering about the Chinese. I think the media loves to hype people up about that stuff, but the truth is the U.S. also has some pretty effective laser weapons, and
yeah.
that's very weird because that was like 20 years ago. That was like science fiction. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That stuff didn't exist. You can't use lasers for
Well,
anything.
so the cool thing, and this I actually didn't consider, and then I was reading it. I knew that they were always talking about aircraft carriers with having laser weapons to shoot down, and I'd heard stuff like that, and I was like, well, why aren't you putting that everywhere? And the reason is because you have kind of the limitless nuclear power on an
Right.
aircraft carrier, and
Hmm.
that's where it's kind of a game changer because you're
Hmm.
like, oh, I have nuclear power. Um, Another type of laser weapon is they call it the active denial system. This basically, it's like they'll attach to the top of a Hummer or whatever the pickup truck, whatever the hell you got in the backyard,
Hmm.
a big like radar array screen kind of thing, and this shoots a 130 degree 95 gigahertz heat wave. Basically, it's like if you open the oven door after you were baking and you get that kind of heat wave in the face.
Uh
So it could make you feel uncomfortable. So I
huh.
mean, we did spend some money and got that going for us.
All right. I saw
I'm
it
like,
penetrates the skin 1/64th of an inch. So it
oh,
just gives you
dude,
excruciating pain, but doesn't actually hurt you.
if you stand there for a while, you're definitely gonna have a sunburn. So
You're gonna feel uncomfortable. Okay.
you're gonna feel uncomfortable. That's, hey, you do you, right?
I wonder
To me,
how many billions of dollars it costs to develop that weapon.
hey, whatever you got to do, right?
Mm,
Um, Now I did mention Hellfire missiles. Now these
mm,
things are just awesome, and they're kicking ass. But we have this new version of the Hellfire called the Ninja Hellfire, and basically it works off the same system. It's the R9X, and it can be attached to Reapers. I saw it on helicopters, all kinds of stuff. But basically, you have like fixed blades, or they pop out, so they're folding blades. They're not really fixed, but that end up. They're saying so they can kind of target individuals, like you're hitting the guy in the car. But I mean, most missiles I know are like 150 grand at a minimum,
Yeah.
and so you can get that one guy in the car. Like, are
Yeah.
we really utilizing our money?
Yeah,
The best way
I
is
remember doing operations in. I think it was we were out in the Atlantic. We were transferring weapons by helicopter. Uh, they're picking up missiles on with a helicopter,
Mhm.
taking them from one ship to another. And if the rigging wasn't right or something went wrong, the helicopter would just drop them into the ocean. And yeah, they just dropped like $1 million worth of weapons into the ocean over like 5 hours, just because I didn't like the way that was sitting from the helicopter. So I mean, you do what you do, I guess.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
taxpayer money. It's fine.
We'll make more. Yeah, no, I still have nightmares of them dropping my Mountain Dew in the ocean. So no, I feel your pain here. Russia has they have a missile called the Zircon. That's a anti-ship, goes about Mach 9, shoots about 625 miles an hour. Now the cool thing with this is going that fast, and a little bit due to the design, it disrupts the air pressure in the front of it. And they say it kind of creates like a plasma cloud in front of it. Like it just disperses and disrupts the air, where it ends up like absorbing the radar, and it
Mhm.
doesn't, show up as well. But that's one of the ones you were talking about that we were able to shoot down with the Patriots. So, yeah, Now, do you remember HARP? Uh,
Yeah, you were talking about this
so
earlier. I don't
HARP,
really understand how this works.
nobody does, because who knows? Out in Fairbanks, Alaska, we have this like transmission station, and basically they transmit frequencies, different high and low level frequencies that disrupt the atmosphere. And people were saying, oh, we're causing tsunamis and we're causing weather to change and doing all this stuff. It was the big thing with all the conspiracies. And I looked in, we were going to shut it down in 2014, and then they decided, you know what? Let's transfer it to University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Hmm.
And so now the college is fucking with people. I don't really know. I don't know
So
what's
what is
come
this?
about of it
What does this
since.
thing do hypothetically? Like it creates like hurricanes and
So
shit.
it's supposed to. Officially they said to study the upper atmosphere.
All right.
It's long been the center of speculation, designed to control the weather or worse. Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez claimed that the program triggered the Haiti earthquake. Um, there were rumors that the tsunami that hit Japan. Remember,
Hmm.
not that long ago, took out that nuclear facility.
Right.
That
Fukushima. The
that
Fukushima
was caused
military.
by
Yep.
right. That was caused by HARP, is what they said. And
Okay.
what was weird is we had just said, hey, if you don't get in line and do what we say, then you might get hit with a tsunami. Now that's a weird statement to
That
make.
is a weird statement to make. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then they got
And
hit
then
with
there
a
was a
tsunami.
tsunami, huh?
And you know what? People don't talk back as much anymore. Um,
So,
hey,
I
you
guess.
don't
I guess so.
sell your property in Maui, you might get your house burned up by a
Your house,
laser.
your ship might
I
burn
don't
down,
know.
burn up. Yeah.
Whatever. Anything could happen. It's a crazy world out there. Um, Another thing we used to hear about, remember rail guns? That was always the thing.
Yeah, that was
Now,
also science fiction
yes.
until
So
recently.
and yes, so they make these and they're awesome because they're like, oh, they're super cheap because you're basically shooting a piece of metal. You don't even need explosives, and it's just magnets.
Right.
But what you're not realizing is these things take so much energy in
Oh, do
order
they?
to shoot it out. Yeah, it's not your instant, recover thing. Um, So yeah, you can shoot, really fast, really far, but yeah, the end result is not exactly as impressive. They shoot about Mach 6. They go 110 miles is the range on a railgun.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is, I guess it was the energy, but also they end up, you can only shoot about 10 rounds through it, and the whole thing kind of destroys itself because it's just so violent of a action.
Right.
Um, but hey,
I wonder
you do
how
you.
accurate that. I mean, it seems like I'm looking at
I think
the picture of it.
accurate,
It
yeah.
seems like they've got it, they can adjust that pretty well and make it pretty accurate. But
So that's the thing. China, I
so
thought I
still
had an
still
idea.
kind of science fiction though.
It's science fiction about putting it into practice.
Right.
Another one of my favorites, and this is not a future weapon. It hasn't really, it's been around a while. They actually had them when I was in the Navy, so a million years ago. Um, the they have the CWIS, the Phalanx.
Mhm.
Um, that's that Gatling gun that they shoot down missiles. I think what was that movie with Steven Seagal and the battleship?
Oh,
They
Under
shot down those
Siege. Yeah.
helicopters with it. It's not really meant to be used like that, but this thing shoots 4,500 rounds a minute, has a muzzle velocity at 2,500 miles per second. It's
Mhm.
radar guided, and basically it needs about 2 seconds to react to kind of catch up
To
to
any
what's going
It's
on.
it's usually shooting down missiles, right? That's the main
Yeah.
purpose of it. I mean, I've seen them and I've heard them fire, and it's amazing. Honestly,
It's
it's
loud and
pretty damn.
terrifying.
It's
Yeah.
loud. It's
Yeah.
loud as shit.
We shot it off. They had a, like, family cruise or something, and they fired that thing off, and it definitely terrified some people.
Yeah, all the
We,
kids were crying and shit afterwards. I'm sure.
I think I've told this story in the past, but, it's a great one. We were shooting, Tomahawk cruise missiles at a, unfriendly, neighbor one time, and,
Hmm.
we and it was weird because, like, the beginning of the deployment, they're, like, all weird, and everybody has to be inside and, like, hiding when we're shooting missiles and whatever. By the end of the deployment, we had shot so many missiles, they were just like, "Whatever, do what you fucking want, whatever." So, me and some buddies, it's like 2 in the morning, we're out on top of the ship, and they're shooting a missile, and, this is one of our missiles coming out of our ship, and they have Sea Whiz, so it's I guess I'm gonna use some weird words here because I'm not sure, but I would say it's active, like it's actively tracking, but not active to fire.
Right.
Okay. So we shoot the missile, it goes up, and if you've ever seen tomahawks, they're not like a standard missile. A
Mhm.
standard missile, like at the time it was like an SM2 or whatever. This thing's going like Mach 2 before it leaves the ship. Like they're just gone. And when you watch it, it's just holy crap, that thing's like you just see the smoke trail. They go so fast. A tomahawk was totally different. They would go up and they'd kind of like float up and then just
Mhm.
kind of hang there, and you'd watch it, and then it would go out over the horizon and you're like, "What, I could shoot that with a handgun." Like, what,
Right.
you're not whatever. So this thing goes out about as far as a football field, and then it turns around and starts coming right back at us. And we're like, "Oh shit, this can't be it." Comes, I swear I'm not exaggerating. It comes within like 10 yards of the side of the ship. And Seawiz is freaking out. And we're standing right next to
Right.
it.
It's
And
tracking
it's
it.
tracking it, going, "Oh my God, we're gonna die." And because the thing is, you shut it off when you're shooting your own missiles, because you
Right.
don't
You don't
want to
want to
shoot
shoot
your
your
own
own shit
missiles
out of the
down.
air.
That would be stupid. Unless you were trying to shoot yourself by accident. So the missile's coming about 10 yards from the side of the ship. It turns and goes straight down into the bottom of the ocean. And we see it like hit the ocean floor and just kind of burning out and going
You see it
into the
go all the
ground.
way down.
And you could just see the end just burning and burning. And it doesn't explode or whatever. It just burning into the bottom. We're like, and like people were ready to jump off the side of the ship. Like it was just bad. We're all like,
Mhm.
oh, we're gonna die. And then no, nothing.
Yep. Nothing
But
happened.
so anyway, Phalanx Sea Whiz, pretty freaking impressive. It's pretty terrifying. It's weird. I thought I had this picture of the um the railgun from China. They actually developed one as well, and it looks similar to ours, except they just covered it in plastic, so you can't see that it doesn't work.
Oh,
And
okay.
then the end is like wrapped in tin foil, which is kind of fun. So
Right. Right.
if you just look up Chinese railgun, you'll be like, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about there. It's funny because a lot of militaries have good ideas or things they want, but they don't actually execute it or pull it off perfectly.
Mhm.
Um, Russia is actually known for that, for being a little
They
all
do.
show, no go. Like
Right.
you were saying, all these, threatening missiles they have going.
Mhm.
Um, I know Russia had they had this ship that we were in we had this thing called the Baltops, where it's a Baltic operation and you deal with
Right.
other NATO countries and stuff. And we ended up we're next to a Russian ship.
Uh-huh.
And
This is in the Baltic Sea?
yeah. And we were peered like moored next to a Russian ship. And we ended up going on the Russian ship and hanging out with the guys because we're all sailors, whatever. We had a good
Right.
time, whatever.
Right.
This is 98, I think
So
98. So way
are
back.
they
Back
drinking on the
before
ship at this point?
the
98? That
Germans were
sounds
hardcore drinkers. The
uh-huh.
Russians, yes, there was a lot of vodka. Now the
Mhm.
Germans at the time, we went on their ship and they had kegs in the berthing.
Oof.
They were living their best life. Dude, you could reach out of your rack and grab the nozzle of the keg and just like fill your beer and just not even
Without
have to
even
get out
getting
of bed.
up.
Yeah. There was this chick and
What
we're
was
like,
that? Man, when I was in the Navy, it was like
I didn't have that.
you got like one beer every 6 weeks out or something like that without
Uh,
going. I think in my 6 month deployment, I only was allowed 2 beers aside
that
of
sounds like
when we
I
went
wouldn't
into
give you
port.
more than 2 beers, but
Well, it wasn't even on the same day. This was spaced out by weeks.
it's a sad day for America.
Yeah.
But so we're on the Russian ship though, and we're talking to the guys, and they're like, yeah, those radars don't work. And that gun, they don't work. And like everything was broken and everything was scrapped for parts. But it was funny because you look at our ship and it's all like sleek and smooth, and you barely see any weapons. I guess we had
Right.
2 5-inch guns, one in the front, one in the back, and then
Right.
we
But
had
not
like
like yeah.
64 missile launchers on each end. So I guess that's kind of like whatever, but it just looks smooth and whatever when you're come up next to it. It looks like a cruise ship.
Right.
And you
Right.
get on the Russian ship and there's like 40, guns all everywhere and they look like daggers and whatever. And they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, nothing works. We're barely holding this thing together with duct tape and whatever. So sometimes it's, a paper tiger, I think is
Right.
is the description people would
Yeah.
use. Um yeah, I don't know. But so I also think though, I mentioned future weapons, right? Now, rail guns are kind of a future weapon. And to me, lasers, like actually taking down things and shooting down missiles with lasers, to me is pretty future weapon.
Mhm.
That active denial heat ray. I mean, that is the future. It's kind of
It
like
is
the ray gun in
right.
Bugs Bunny. Remember that guy used to come and point at it
Marvin the Martian, yeah.
The Martian, and it never, like, killed people, it
It
just
just
kinda
turned
heated
them
it
black.
up or
Yeah. A
yeah,
little crispy on the outside.
um, but I think one of the biggest future weapons we need to look out for is, fake news.
Ooh,
I
shit.
I think the way that AI is and the way remember Russia was faking the moon landing, like, they put out a picture, obviously, they weren't trying to say that they were the first ones there, but they put
Mhm.
out these pictures that nobody could, like, detect that it was a fake
Mhm.
of them on the moon first, and they were like, "Yep, fuck you, look, we did it, you didn't," and
Yeah.
but the point is that Glenn Beck always says, "You won't believe your eyes." We can see, you can create videos of Trump saying stupid things, or
I actually saw a
oh
video
wait, that was a
of
real video of Trump saying
Jesus,
stupid
we'll talk about
things.
that in the after
Okay,
show.
okay.
I got comments. But yeah, actually recently saw a video of Joe Biden and Donald Trump in a dance off, and then at the end they made out with each other. So I mean, honestly,
You
it
were
looked
in.
like it really happened. Yeah,
You were like, "Hey."
I'm not saying that I know it was fake, but I don't feel like Donald Trump and Joe Biden are gay for each other. I'm not sure, but I don't think that that's how things are working out in real life. But honestly, with the amount that Joe Biden falls over, his dance moves were pretty damn impressive. It seems like he can just be walking and just his legs give out and falls down, but he was breakdancing and it was great. It was great. Really
But
impressive for a 90-year-old man.
yeah. No, I mean, I mean, the focus of the episode, I wanted to talk about the fast cruise missiles and the hypersonic weapons. Everything is just amazing. We really are stepping up our game, but I gotta say, I feel like the future of war is really, information and, hacking people,
And
shutting down people's power
disinformation
grids, and
and misinformation.
but is it really the future, or is it just war? Because I mean, you remember Russia was the master at manipulating and whatever. People still believe that the Pope was down with the Nazis and, whatever, all that stuff. It, because remember, the Pope said, "Hey," I mean, this is what the Russia propaganda said. "Oh, if you don't touch the churches, then, we'll let you go and do your thing and kill all the Jews and just
Right.
leave the church alone." There was a lot of stuff like that. Like, you make it, maybe, is it believable? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
And that's
this is
the
news to
problem.
me. I thought that was all true, and you're saying that it was maybe half truths, huh?
Yeah, no, actually, there were a lot of the popes that they really tried to disparage. Yeah, were good guys who are working against them, and they really painted it completely different. Um, Russia's really good at manipulating stuff, and they would put on plays and they would do stuff. And now we have YouTube and whatever, and we stare nonstop at Facebook and TikTok and
Right.
whatever other thing.
And made up bullshit.
And it's a lot of made up bullshit. And you don't know. And that's the thing. The internet, what yeah, exactly. Uncle Whiskey said, basically the internet amplifies and, does what the same war strategies that were always happening are just getting worse. And
Right. The propaganda warfare. I mean, if you go back to the Cold War,
yeah,
man, it was just everything was terrifying. You know what I mean? You're any second, the entire everybody could be incinerated. You know what I mean? And man, it seemed like we were right on the edge for like 20 years.
yeah, every other day, right?
Hiding under your desk, like that's gonna keep you from turning into you know some black
And
dust.
it's funny when I actually think about it, like, when I look at actual facts, aside of maybe a day or two somewhere around the whole JFK Cuban Missile Crisis thing, aside of a day or two there, we're probably closer to nuclear war right now at any minute than any
Mhm.
other time in history. Like, I feel like Russia could be like, "You know what? Fuck this." Like, at any time. I just don't see Putin wanting to give up.
Yeah.
That, or he's really loving the fact that we're burning through all our money and all our weapons. Like, dude, nobody needs to fire a shot at America because we're just killing ourselves by all this money we're giving to Ukraine. It's
Yeah.
insane, dude. Dude, do you know that we are paying? Hang on, I see you getting like, "Oh, we don't need to go down this road," but we are
I'm getting
paying
my
the
hackles up.
salary, right? We're paying the salary of every firefighter and first responder in all of Ukraine right now. Do you know we're giving small businesses grants to keep going right now in
Mhm.
Ukraine? In Ukraine, not in America, in Ukraine, to keep this stuff going.
Mhm.
We're just insane. We're just totally killing ourselves. And that's the thing. We're giving money, but are we? I mean, we're just printing it and sending it over. So basically, it's the secret tax. If you want to, they always say the best way to cheat on your taxes legally, which sounds ironic there, but to legally cheat on your taxes is to beat inflation and to put your money into, hard assets that are going to hold value,
Right.
because that's the biggest tax that you're paying right now
Is inflation.
is inflation, is them paying, printing money nonstop because they don't need to tax you on paper,
Mhm.
but attrition, I like it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I saw ratio
Mhm.
recently. I can't remember what it was, but it was like every dollar spent by Americans versus every dollar spent by Russians, and the Russian economy is really starting to shit the bed, starting to collapse. They can't even sell their oil anymore because they're out of oil that they've pumped.
Yeah.
So they have to save it all for themselves for their own military. They're like their inflation is going through the roof, worse than the U.S. But that's not saying anything,
Now,
you know.
gas was down. I mean, not to Trump prices, but gas was down at the pump on the way home last night. It was like $3.39 a gallon. So I was like, oh,
Yeah, well, you're in North Carolina. I'm in New York. That we ain't paying the same gas prices up here. Yeah.
because it had been hanging around 3.49, 3.59 for a while,
Hmm.
and I was
Yeah.
like, nah. And
What are you doing?
now I'm not at the $2 Trump gas or anything. We're at the
Hmm.
the 3.50 sounds good.
Yeah.
Uh, you're paying more than that than
Oh yeah, yeah.
3.49.
370.
Oh, I haven't seen 3.70. That's yeah. Now, Uncle Whiskey said he disagreed with something. I don't know what happened there. I was in some rant, and then he
No,
just
you were ranting about sending all that money to Ukraine. I
oh,
don't know if that's what he disagreed with, but
but
I
that's where
mean,
I was.
I disagree with that, and so when I saw him disagree, I just assumed that
You
he was
assumed he was
agreeing with
on
me,
board with
but
you.
whatever.
Now,
Um,
what's your take on that? Money to Ukraine. We'll have to.
I personally think it's I personally support it. The main reason is, I
It's
mean,
our money,
one,
their bodies.
they're free.
They're
Yeah, I mean, they're a free country that's being invaded by a dictatorship. I mean, why would you support a dictatorship over a republic?
whoa. Wait,
But
wait.
two,
Did I say that I was supporting Russia? I just said don't give them any money.
two, I really like seeing all the high tech U.S. weapons going against the high tech Russia and Chinese weapons, and we're really starting to see who's got the best shit. It's like this is like first in world history since World War II. You know what I mean? We're really seeing some top notch weapons going against each other. Super excited about the drone warfare. Have you
Yeah,
seen some of these Ukrainian videos? They've got like drones like that you buy from a hobby store.
Best Buy or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, with the
I don't know
cameras,
if
and they're
Best
going
Buy
up just
exists
dropping hand
anymore.
grenades on people. To me,
Nice.
that's
That's
it's just
classy.
like it's just cool
The
shit.
innovation,
Yeah.
the creativity. The U.S. actually has a new drone called the Mojave,
Hmm.
like the desert, I guess,
Right.
and that actually carries the Mojave, or sorry, the Hellfire missiles,
Oh,
and
okay. All right.
they're look. We had the Reapers and the Predators, and they're terrifying too. But just the Mojave's the new thing, and it's supposed to be a little cooler and a little better. It's smaller and lightweight. Needs a 120-meter runway, and
Oh,
a
that's pretty damn
little
short.
intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
but
it's basically like Skynet. Eventually those things will be turned around and just
oh yeah,
start
I
wiping out all the
I'm
humans, huh?
doing a audio book right now. I actually can probably give you a name, which I always am like, oh, I'm reading an audio
Listen
book, but I have no
listening
idea
to
what
an
it's called.
audiobook?
Yeah, whatever. Listen, jerk.
Yeah.
Ryan Show, The Age of Embers, complete series off Audible.
Okay.
And
All right.
we're an Audible. Well, maybe they are an advertiser. I don't even know what commercials they put up on here, but
Mhm.
this isn't a pitch for Audible, if it is. But anyway, I end up getting those books, and I try and do the ones that are like 50 hours for one credit,
Right. So you
'cause,
can
I'm cheap,
go
right?
through one for
And yeah,
for
I'm good for a
all
month,
month.
on that, right? And but Age of Embers, and it's basically the quantum computer decides that it hates people, and basically turns all the U.S. drones against the US cities. And
Mhm.
same thing, it's using all your like Best Buy drones, and your little stuff
Uh-huh.
are like scouting for all the other ones.
Right.
And they're out looking, and then all the Reapers and Predators and apparently Mojave drones are coming in and just shooting everybody up and taking them out. And hey, it's a brutal world out there. I think that AI could definitely have a hand in the future of war. It
Yeah.
it is gonna be
It's
it's gonna
exciting
be a
stuff,
game
man.
changer. All
Yeah.
right. Now I know Kevin's got things to do, and 50 minutes, that's we're hanging in there.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess we're
you were
that's a
you were
full show.
worried. Kevin's gotta
I
get
think
the
that
kids off to
I could have done this in a 2 or 3 episodes, but I think that
I know I
artillery and
did
missiles and future weapons, maybe it's a little bit boring for people to listen to for 3 weeks in a row.
I did skip a couple. You may wanna check out the Javelin, which has been around a while, but the FGM-148 has infrared guidance, and you're shooting down tanks and cool shit with that, and pretty badass. They're handheld, but they're like thick.
Oh
They're
yeah.
big, beefy, handheld rockets.
Mhm.
Um, those that I don't know. I'm just kind of looking over the notes, seeing I missed some cool things. That Hellfire Ninja missile we actually used in 2017 to kill Abu Khair al-Masari.
Oh, was that was the guy in
That's the one who
Iraq,
went in the
right?
car. Yeah, and they were in the car, two guys driving, and
Yep.
took them out. But hey, different things. But anyway, also wanted to say I've been talking to people. They've been getting the new shirt that I'm wearing that you can't see with the beard. Um,
Okay.
Survival and Basic Badass podcast shirts. You can get them at preppingbadass.com. People are saying they are good and they love wearing them every day. And
All
it's
right.
their favorite shirt. And I was like, oh,
Excellent.
so now,
Excellent.
and we're talking about shirt quality, not just design. I mean,
All right.
obviously, it goes without words that the design and representing the Survival and Basic Badass podcast would
Right.
be a good choice. Um, Another buddy of mine chimed in. He's like, "Yeah, I'm yelling at my wife because you autographed that one for her, and she's wearing it." And he's like, I'm like, "Why would you wear it? He's autographed that. You need to keep it." And I'm like, "Exactly." You
Yep.
know,
It's
you
that
need to
important.
frame it, and that important. So, hey, you got to keep your options open. You can also go over to patreon.com. If you sign up, it's patreon.com/preppingbadass. They have it set up so that you can if you pledge $10 a month, you get a free mug. If you
Right.
do 20 a month, you get a free t-shirt. Or
All
you
right.
can just cut to the chase and just go get a t-shirt at preppingbadass.com.
All right. So how
Anyway,
much is the t-shirts if I just buy the t-shirt
I
versus if
think
I just go to Patreon?
I think they're around 25, $26.
So if you donate on Patreon, you can get a shirt cheaper than
And that's the thing. If you just do
cheaper
1
than.
month, you could cancel your subscription and you would actually come out ahead about $5.
Nice.
I'm just saying.
Nice.
Just
All
saying.
right.
Hey, it's a commitment you might want to make. Chris did finally get around and tell me what mug he wanted, and I
Mhm.
still haven't shipped it out. I'm gonna
Oh,
do it
you
this
did.
afternoon. I'm a jerk, and yeah,
All right.
he's gonna be on to me, but I'm just saying we keep that between us, and that's how it is. Anyway, with that, I would say questions, concerns, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Otherwise, stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.